Hello and welcome to Coffee with Craig. It is Sunday, November 12th. Now, Sundays is not just a day of rest for many of us. It's not just a day to watch football, but it's also an opportunity or a day in which we come together with people of like faith and join and congregate in our local houses of worship. Unfortunately, there are individuals out there, as we saw last week, who use it as an opportunity to inflict terror on others, which has raised a significant question, a question regarding whether or not one should exercise their right to bear arms actually in houses of worship. And some people see that as a conflict. Well, there was a conversation that was had recently, actually not long after the shooting that took place in Sutherland, Texas, between a Fox News anchor and between the Attorney General for the state of Texas, Ken Paxton. And I thought it really highlighted the reasons why this is something that should be considered. So I wanted to have you check it out, and then we'll talk about it on the other side.
As far as what we can do in the future, I mean, the only thing I know, because you can't necessarily keep guns out of the hand of people who are going to violate the law. If somebody's willing to kill someone, they're also going to be willing to violate a gun law. And all I can say is that, in Texas, at least we have the opportunity to have concealed carry. And so if it's a place where somebody has the ability to carry, there's always the opportunity that gunman will be taken out before he has the opportunity to kill very many people.
And you would think, the concept of a firearm and a church, that we've come to that. I mean, in Arkansas, there's the Church Protection Act, where they're legally allowed to do that, apparently. It just are two potentially diametric opposite concepts when you're there praying to the Lord.
Well, there's no doubt, and I think that's why so many people don't carry in a church, whereas if this had been somewhere else, you might have seen somebody being able to react. But I think as we see, I mean, we've had shootings at churches for forever. This is going to happen again, and so we need people in churches, either professional security or at least arming some of the parishioners or the congregation so that they can respond if something like this when something like this happens again.
Legally, in terms of gun control and firearms in this country, what more can or what more do you think government should do to try and prevent these type of acts?
I wish that some law would fix all of this, but the reality is if you've got somebody that's willing, we already have laws against killing people, and if somebody's willing to kill someone, changing gun laws probably doesn't affect that person. I can't imagine that they would care. And if they're going to get access to a gun, what you have to do, I think, is you have to allow citizens to be able to protect themselves.
And you were talking about the church, the Arkansas law that I was referencing from Senator Brian King in Northwest Arkansas. It designates the church who can carry in the church. As you know, many churches have retired military people and others. It says, basically where they can be, for security. And one would think that, perhaps in some of these cases, churches, and you wouldn't think they would, go to that extent, but at least it's some measure, some step in case God forbid, what happens as we saw today happens.
Yeah, I think that's actually a really good point. I think churches and probably places of business need to really think about, how they're going to address this, especially in schools, how they're going to address this if, a shooter can come in and shoot so many people so quickly before our first responders can get there. It seems to me that churches, places of business, schools ought to have policies addressing this issue so that we can protect our children, we can protect our parishioners, we can protect people, given that this is going to happen again.
So, and I think he made an excellent point. The first thing is that as opposed to just saying, okay, we're just going to we just need to arm people. First of all, it's important, I think, for any church to have a plan. Know exactly what that plan is for any entity. What is your plan in an active shooter situation? We just found out that in the state of California, very, very few public schools are in a position or have a plan to be able to protect their staff and their students or visitors on campus. And in California, we just removed the ability of anyone outside of retired law enforcement or active law enforcement from being able to carry a firearm on campus. So we've literally just created, as we all know, gun-free zones are target-rich environments, and they tend to attract people who are interested in conducting mass shootings. The other side, they continually ignore that, but okay. But we all know that to be the case. But the other thing is that, as an individual who believes in the concept of, first and foremost, that all life is precious, which I believe is pointed out in biblical principles, but all life is precious and deserves to be protected. And once again, not just my life, but the lives of those who have come together to worship with me, those who are in the flock. And, there are those people who, are the sheep and part of the flock, and there are those people who are the sheepdogs. And in every ministry, in every church, in every organization, there are sheepdogs. And those sheepdogs are tasked with, or at least it is part of their DNA, they're there to help protect the flock. And part of protecting that flock is, in fact, being prepared. And let's just be real. If there's someone who is coming into a church or coming into a school or coming into a place of business and into a public place with a firearm seeking to do harm, and you do not have a firearm there, a tool there, you are not prepared to address that issue. And, for those of you who have a biblical issue with it, or it's like, well, but church is supposed to be about peace, it's about protecting and about protection. And it's about, the faith also talks about, the importance of, what is it that I'm looking for? It talks about how there is a time for war. There is a time for peace and there is a time for war. And when that time comes, you are supposed to study to show yourself approved. We're supposed to be prepared in season and out of season. And that includes being able to protect that life which God gave us, which God gave those children, which God gave all those who worship with us. And I think that we need to understand that as long as there is evil in the hearts of men and women, but evil in the hearts of people, it's going to be important that we are there and that we are prepared to be able to confront that evil, both in a spiritual sense, but also in a physical sense. And all right, folks, that's going to be it for today's Coffee with Craig. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your Sunday.
If you like our videos, follow, subscribe, like, and share.